you'll never find someone who agrees with you on everything. Notice there's kind of this psychological phenomenon with us humans where we feel validated and good about ourselves when we find people who think similarly to us, people who agree with us on almost everything. And quite often when we encounter someone who thinks differently than us, who disagrees with us on things, we tend to lose respect for that person and maybe even sometimes view them as kind of like an enemy. And I believe this is a really horrible phenomenon, something that we should all strive to work on because, well, one, you can see a lot of the consequences of this way of thinking nowadays, but like I already said, you're never going to find someone who agrees with you on everything. Well, okay, you'll find one person, and they can be found in the mirror. That's the only person who will ever agree with you on absolutely everything. Yourself. So, unless you aim to go through life shunning the company of others, I mean, this is something you should work on. I mean, it's just weird how we tend to do this because unless somebody actually has harmful beliefs, like things that could harm themselves or society at large, there really aren't too many realms where disagreement is actually a horrible thing. But we act like it is nowadays. We get so upset, we take it so personally. Sometimes we even get offended when someone thinks differently than us and therefore disagrees with us on things. I mean, politics are a great example, religion as well. Nowadays, diet is another huge thing. I mean, workout choices, and I mean, the list goes on. There are a ton of areas in life that serve as points of contention nowadays because we all see the world in our own unique ways. I mean, we've all been raised differently. We all think differently. We all have different mindsets. So we all view the world in our own unique ways. And you can't really say your way is better than that of others because, well, that would require omniscience. None of us have that. None of us can say for sure whether or not we have the best way of viewing the world. I mean, quite often people who, well, here's the thing. You can only really break it down in terms of how certain ways of viewing the world have certain benefits. For instance, if you want to connect better with others, being non-judgmental and viewing the world through that lens of non-judgment, that will help you tremendously. But some people may say that then you're being kind of like a fence sitter and you're never choosing sides on things like the Stoics did back then. Well, even they would choose sides occasionally. So, yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm really trying to say is it's not super helpful to constantly be trying to surround yourself with people who think the exact same way as you. One, you're not going to find that, so you're going to have to find people who think pretty similarly to you on certain realms, but even then, you're not going to agree on everything. But two, even if you do succeed in finding people like that who are pretty similar to you, now all you've done is surrounded yourself with an echo chamber. I'm not convinced that echo chambers really lead to the growth of the members within them, because it's kind of like a safe space where you're protecting your own egos from having to confront people who think differently than you do, people who disagree with you. And that doesn't sound like a way to grow, because quite often growth comes from challenging yourself, right? From having to expand your mind and think in different ways. How is that going to happen if you're surrounded by an echo chamber of people who all agree with you on everything? It's like when kings back in the day would surround themselves with yes men. And even nowadays, it still somewhat happens in politics. Have you ever noticed how the kings who did that would often make egregious mistakes because the people around them were kind of just telling them what they wanted to hear? They were not really all that helpful because they were more, well, this is kind of a bad example because quite often those people were fearing for their lives because the kings who had a habit of doing that were a bit tyrannical, so they would off people who thought differently than them. But it led to issues because those kings, since they weren't listening to criticism and people disagreed with them, they would make horrible choices, and quite often those choices would lead to issues with the populace. And after you piss off a populace often enough, they want to overthrow you. So that would happen quite often. But this extent, obviously, none of us are kings or queens, so this doesn't really apply to us. But that a somewhat smaller form of that can happen to us if we surround ourselves with echo chambers, We prevent our own growth. We're more likely to make bad decisions because we're just not challenging ourselves. So make sure in life as much as possible that you don't seek to surround yourself with people who agree with you on everything, people who think similarly to you. I mean, yeah, you're going to struggle to find that, but it's just not even a goal that any of us should have. So yeah, that's basically all I want to talk about in this video, because it seems like I don't know how prevalent it is per se, but it does seem to be somewhat common, at least more common than it was in the past nowadays, because, well, just look on social media, you'll find evidence of this phenomena quite often. And even you've heard stories of people losing touch with friends or family members who disagree with them. And I mean, obviously in some cases it will definitely be justified, but if the sole reason you lose touch with someone is just because they disagree with you on certain things that aren't all that big of a deal, if they're not things, like I said, where the person's putting themselves in harm's way, or people they care about in harm's way, or they're not being bigoted, they're not being a bad person, that sort of thing, then it doesn't seem like all that big of a deal. But oh well, the way I kind of think of it is it'd kind of be like if children in elementary school choosing not to be friends just because they have different favorite colors. Like one kid's like, oh, my favorite color is white, and the other one says my favorite color is red, and then they never want to talk again because they disagree on that. Like, that's stupid. Obviously I'm very much with that example kind of simplifying things, but you get my point here. We should all strive to be mature, and like I said, as long as someone's not a bad human being and they don't believe things that are horrible for them as well as society, I don't see any harm in someone disagreeing with you, as long as they're polite about it, respectful, they're not just name calling and yelling at you, because those aren't good things. But yeah, I mean, you're never going to find someone who agrees with you on everything, so it's in your own best interest to not even make that a goal, and just aim to grow by being able to entertain differing viewpoints, differing opinions, different ways of seeing the world, because we all see the world in our own unique ways. And who's to say whether or not anyone has a view that's better than others? So yeah, quite often you'll find that the more you can strive to be non-judgmental for the most part, the more it will help you connect with others, especially in today's world where there is quite a lot of polarization among religion, politics, and so many different realms of life. People are itching for that non-judgment, for someone who just can kind of understand their point of view and realize that it's okay for them to have their own way of viewing things. So yeah, I guess my whole point with this video is we need more human connection, and being non-judgmental will help tremendously with that, whereas trying to surround yourself with echo chambers, not convinced that will do you any favors. So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you enjoyed this one. I mean, I hope I don't know if it's helpful or not. I hope it is. But yeah, so if you enjoy content like this, be sure to subscribe for more. Otherwise, like the video. That's the easiest way you can help me out, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know if you disagree with me on everything I spoke about. But anyway, remember guys, we're all on this journey together. So the most important thing is that you just keep going, keep moving forward, keep striving to be as non-judgmental as possible. But obviously I'm not saying to never judge anyone. Just aim to connect before you judge people. Aim to understand them. And then once you're outside of their company, yeah, sure, you can determine whether or not they're actually a good person to keep around. But you can listen to people and understand them and empathize with them before you do that, to just help you have that bit of human connection in your life. It's a beautiful thing, and the world needs more of it. So anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Arrivederci!